welcome to the Sullivan Stones Crystal Classroom. In this video, I will describe in very simple layman's terms the primary differences between the 6 main quartz growth habits. While there's a lot of information on the internet that's very technical and scientific, we know that there's a need for a simplified overview of crystal habits. Because let's face it, at one point we were all beginners and we need a good basic place to start. So in keeping with really simple old school terminology here, we're going to even use some flashcards to describe our points. So starting with the first style, we have the normal or prismatic habit. Then we have the trigonal habit. The third style is the hexagonal or pseudo-hexagonal habit. We have the Dauphine habit. We have the Tessin or peninic habit. And lastly, we have Muzo habit. So in the example of the normal and prismatic habit, you can see in this illustration that the crystal will have a face with either 5 or 7 sides, but then flanked by 2 perfect triangles. And this continues so that you have it on the other side of the crystal as well. So you have 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6 sides. This particular crystal is an example of the normal or prismatic habit. And you can see, hopefully you can see, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sides, right? There's the face. And then you have a perfect triangle here and a perfect triangle here. So it is a hexagonal crystal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you're going to see the repeat of that face in some variation of it. 3 sides of the crystal and then 3 triangles, 1, 2, 3. So that's one example. Now, crystals, Mother Nature is beautiful and amazing, but sometimes it's not always consistent. So that's why I want to give you a few examples of crystals that fall into that same category, but they may not always look identical to each other. So in this example, this one doesn't even have a balanced side. So you have one long side here, a tiny little corner, but doesn't change the fact that we have 2 triangles on either side, even though one is larger than the other. This side, same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but perfect 3-sided triangle here. And again, it's a hexagon with its overall structure. And then on this little guy, once more, here we go again. We have one corner there, but a long side here. But we still have triangle, triangle, and still a hexagon. So these 3 crystals are examples of the normal prismatic habit. The trigonal habit is very similar in some ways. Like at a quick glance, you may not be able to tell the difference. But if you're looking at the normal prismatic, where the green lines at the top here show that the points come a little bit lower, the corners come lower. But then on the trigonal habit, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 equal sides. And rising up on the sides here, you have sides that come to a triangular top. Here, the sides come up to a flat edge, and then the triangle comes toward the point. So that is the primary difference between the normal prismatic habit and the trigonal. So I will demonstrate that here for a second. in this crystal. I only have 2 on hand. This is a little bit harder to find this particular habit. But as you can see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But you see how the 2 points that come down here are straight across the face. And we have the side comes up to a perfect point, another side comes up to a perfect point. And that does continue on the other faces. The trigonal habit. This is actually a really beautiful crystal. This is almost perfect. And here's a variation on a theme. So again, you're going to have that 5-sided face, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with the lines coming across the middle of the face. You got your sides that come up to a perfect triangular point. And even though this face here is a little bit more squat, it still has 5 sides. And you still have the triangular points coming up. So those are the trigonal habits. The next one, which is the hexagonal or the pseudo-hexagonal habit, is one that tends to be coveted by people who use crystals metaphysically. This is referred to as a generator crystal, metaphysically. And you can see that it has 6 equal triangles, or relatively equal triangles, that come to a single termination point. And then again, the outer perimeter of it is a hexagon. For the record, these are all personal collection stuff, so none of them are for sale. But we do get them in periodically with these very special features and faces. So if you're looking for one in particular, always send us a message and we'll see what we can find for you. So this is another example of the hexagonal, the perfect triangular sides coming to a single termination point, 6 sides. Now, I will be doing more videos down the line that talk about other defining elements within crystals. Like, for instance, this is what would be considered a double terminated crystal. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, definitely stay tuned, definitely subscribe and like, because I'm going to go through a whole series of these different features of the quartz crystals. But in addition to it being double terminated, it's really here in my hand right now because it's one more example of the hexagonal habit. And this one, not only is it double terminated, but it is beautifully terminated on both ends. This is really a spectacular piece. So those are the hexagonal or pseudo-hexagonal habit. The next version is the Dauphine habit. The Dauphine habit has one face in particular. So it doesn't really matter how many sides there are on the face. It's just that it's going to have one very large face on the termination of the crystal. And I have 4 samples here of that. This one looks almost exactly like that illustration. So as you can see, you have asymmetrical faces, the lines of the face, but it is very distinctly one large face. Here's another example. And you can see in this one's even kind of like oddly shaped. The line kind of comes in instead of being flared out like they typically are. But again, it still classifies it as the Dauphine habit. This is a nice one. So this one, you could argue, well, at a quick glance, this looks a lot like the trigonal habit, but it has a flat back. So you have to look very closely, and plus the sides are not triangular point. They are asymmetrical as well. So that's why it's important to really understand to the best of your ability the differences, because there are some subtleties that make it easy to confuse one for another. And then you have this little guy here. Where you have this perfect face, but it's completely asymmetrical. The next category is the Tessin, or the peninic habit. The primary feature of this habit form is that it does not have even parallel sides. It comes to a tapered termination. And there's also not a lot of symmetry with the Tessin habits. But good Lord, that's a spectacular crystal, isn't it? And so even on the smallest, again, taper, taper. So these particular crystals that I'm showing you right now all came from Colombia. And this is the Tessin habit is something that you find a lot coming out of Colombia. Primarily they come from the regions of Pina Blanca and Muzo. And that's going to bring me to my next category, our final category, which is the Muzo habit. So the Tessin and the Muzos look very similar at a quick glance. You're like, well, what's the difference? The difference is that in a Muzo habit, there are 3 sides that come to a single termination point. So although when you're holding it, face value this way, when you turn it this way and you can see the 3 flat sides that come to a single termination, that is what classifies it as a Muzo habit. When you pinch them in your fingers, it's a lot easier. You do boop, 1, 2, 3. This is a nice little needle version of it, but nonetheless, it's still a Muzo habit, 3 sides. And one more example. And those are Muzos. So I hope this video has helped clarify the identification of the various quartz crystal habits. Please like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to click on the notification bell so that you have instant updates on our upcoming videos. As I mentioned, I'm going to do more videos that talk more about the features and different qualities of the quartz with their different characteristics. So we appreciate your time, and thanks for viewing.